Peace, peace tribe, peace fam. It's the real black genius back at you with the top 10 ways black people can upgrade and escape this matrix. The following 10 strategies constitute a framework for structural emancipation, moving beyond mere survival within oppressive systems toward collective sovereignty and self-determination. These approaches are rooted in historical black liberation practice, from the Maroon colonies to the Black Power movement's economic nationalism, updated for contemporary asymmetrical warfare. Number one, economic secession through parallel institutions. Stop attempting to integrate into burning houses. The dominant economy extracts 1.2 to 1.5 trillion annually from Black American purchasing power while returning negligible investment. Established producer cooperative following the Mondragon model but rooted on African communist traditions. Develop internal credit circuits, bypassing predatory traditional banking. Community land trusts, rotating saving circles, and cryptocurrency treasuries for collective investment. Vertical integration, control entire supply chain within the community, from raw material sourcing to manufacturing to retail. Historical precedent, Tulsa's Greenwood District, Black Wall Street, succeeded because dollars circulated 36 to 100 times internally before exiting. Number two, educational sovereignty and epistemic obedience. The current educational system functions as indoctrination into white supremacist epistemology, teaching black students to despise their own cognitive frameworks. Homeschooling networks, utilizing cultural sustaining pedagogues, um, African-centered mathematics, Black intellectual genealogy, critical land-based education, apprenticeship models, replacing debt peonage universities with direct knowledge transfer from Black professionals, tradespeople, and elders. Decolonize STEM, reclaim African contributions to astronomy, medicine, and engineering, not as trivia, but as living methodologies, practical geometry, African architectural, ethnomathematics. Number three, health autonomy beyond medical racism. The medical industrial complex demonstrates measurable bias in pain treatment, maternal mortality, and diagnostic algorithms. Black maternal mortality remains 2.6 times higher than white women, regardless of income or education. Community health worker models train paraprofessionals from the neighborhood in preventative care, traditional African medicine, and emergency response, food apartheid remediation, urban agroecology, utilizing vacant lots for high yield, cultural appropriate crops, rather, okra, black-eyed pea gardens, etc., combined with mycology and cultivation. Holistic healing collective, integrating African tradition, medicine, herbalism, spiritual technologies with evidence-based functional medicine, operating outside insurance networks that monetize illness, digital secession, and cyber sovereignty. Surveillance capitalism disproportionately targets Black communities through predictive policing algorithms, facial recognition, and data exploitation. Mesh networks, community-owned intranets, bypassing corporate ISPs and government surveillance infrastructure, open source everything. Migration to Linux-based systems, encrypted communication, signal session, and self-hosted servers for community data. Digital blackouts, strategic periods of total disconnection from corporate platforms to disrupt data harvesting and psychological manipulation. Number 5, territorial autonomy and land-based liberation. Land is the basis of sovereignty. The 1910 peak of black land ownership, 16 to 19 million acres, has declined to under 4 million acres today due to systemic theft, heirs property theft, USDA discrimination, eminent domain abuse, etc. Land bank strategies, aggressive acquisition of rural land for autonomous zones, utilizing land trusts to prevent individual sale and speculative exploitation. Urban territoriality, establishing liberated zones through community benefit agreements, community land trusts, CLTs, and cooperative housing that permanently removes units from the speculative market. Bioregional stewardship, restoration of wetlands, forests, and watersheds as acts of resistance against environmental racism. Number 6, narrative insurgency and semiotic warfare. Control of representation determines possibility. The current media ecosystem weaponizes stereotypes to justify state violence and economic exploitation. Independent media infrastructure, community radio, low power FM, streaming networks, and print journalism, unbeholden to corporate advisors. Afrofuturist world building, creating speculative fiction, gaming, and virtual worlds that model liberated futures, training the collective imagination for possibilities beyond current constraints. Counterintelligence, media literacy programs teaching deep fake detection, propaganda analysis, and the identification of AI, COINTEL style psychological operations, jurisdiction maneuvering, and legal arbitrage. The legal system operates as a mechanism of the containment. Escaping requires strategic legal pluralism, diplomatic immunity strategies, securing tribal affiliations, groups achieving recognition as indigenous, aboriginal to the Americas, religious exemptions, or international human rights frameworks, internationalizing struggle, taking cases to the International Criminal Court, UN working groups of experts on people of African descent, and the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights, bypassing captured domestic courts, legal technology, algorithmic analysis of judicial bias, jury nullification, education, and community paralegal networks providing alternative dispute resolution outside the prison industrial complex. 8. Intergenerational wealth architecture. Wealth is not income, it is the transfer of options across time. Current black wealth stands at 1/10 of the white wealth, trending toward zero by 2053. Dynastic trust structures, perpetual trust holding land, intellectual property, and businesses, preventing wealth dissipation through fragmentation or assimilationist, assimilationalist pressures. Knowledge codification, systemic documentation of family oral histories, technical skills, and relational networks. The social capital that compounds beyond financial assets. Strategic endogamy, marrying within the race, not as racism, but as economic nationalism, pooling resources and preventing the $50,000 plus average wealth loss that occurs when black women marry out due to the racial wealth gap in spousal families. Number 9, psychological decolonization and cognitive liberation. Maybe I should just slow it down, y'all. But I just be trying to get the information to y'all so fast, you know. I just need to relax. The most sophisticated prison is internalized white supremacy, imposter syndrome, colorism, texturism, and the colonization of consciousness, cognitive reframing, rejection of Eurocentric beauty standards, time concepts, polychronic versus monochronic, and the individualist ontology in favor of Ubuntu-centered relational identity. Trauma-informed community building, addressing intergenerational trauma, epigenetic inheritance of slavery, and Jim Crow through somatic healing ritual and community accountability processes. Agency restoration, eliminating oppression Olympics and victimhood narratives while maintaining structural analysis, embracing the paradox of being victimized yet refusing victim identity. Number 10, asymmetric solidarity and strategic alliances. Isolation is fatal. Naive integration is fatal. The solution is calculated coalition. Horizontal solidarity, alliance with indigenous nations, land-backed, undocumented workers, labor rights, and anti-imperialist movements globally, bypassing white liberal saviorism. Selective engagement, using the master's tools, litigation, legislation, only when they provide immediate tactical advantage, never as strategic endpoints. Exit preparation, exit preparation, developing the capacity for total withdrawal, economic, territorial, digital, and from the American project should conditions deteriorate into explicit apartheid or genocide. These 10 vectors converge on a single principle, autonomy over integration. The matrix is not merely metaphorical. It is the it is the totality of systems of racial capitalism that require black subjugation to function. Escaping it requires not reform, but exodus, the creation of spaces, institutions, and consciousnesses that operate on fundamentally different logics than the extractive, individualist, anti-black world order. The blueprint exists in black melanin, in Suriname and Jamaica, maintained autonomous African civilizations for centuries in hostile territories. The Republic of New Africa proposed territorial independence. The Nation of Islam built parallel economies. The question is not feasibility, it is the collective will to pay the costs of freedom, which are invariably higher than the costs of oppression, but infinitely more worthwhile.